Good morning, and today I would like to introduce how to set up Zoom webinars and how to conduct uh, some kind of seminars, things using Zoom webinars. And you all have experience using Zoom meeting, but it's a little bit different between, there are some differences we can see Zoom meetings and Zoom webinars. And I don't, you know that I don't have Zoom license. Because of that reason, I have to use the screenshots and some information from other websites and also from Learn. And these are the websites I referred, and I got the screenshots and the information, and so I would like to acknowledge them. And first, mainly we'll see what are the differences between Zoom meeting and Zoom webinars.
Hello, Hiroshini.
Yes.
The signals are breaking.
Oh, really?
Signals are breaking. Our clear what apita hunna etika.
Shall I start from again?
No, it's all right.
Mata vitaradda danna.
Nah, it was happen like sa re ga.
I think my internet connection has some kind of no, its strength is okay. I don't know what the problem.
Now it's all right, I think.
Now okay, but
then I had to start it again. See, I forgot to resume recording, and but I discussed the differences between the Zoom meeting and the Zoom webinars. Zoom meeting we use only for the small group discussion or some lectures. In Zoom meetings, all the participants have the same privilege, and with lot of tools and icons that we can have breakup rooms, chat, and all the other screen sharing and talking and sharing videos. And the license we get from Learn Zoom meeting, we can have only maximum 300 participants. But when we come to the Zoom webinars, and the Zoom webinars we are mainly used for a large group of people, and like presentations, seminars, or conferences. In Zoom webinars, we have different user types, and the privilege depends on the user types that in this webinar rather than in a Zoom meeting. And especially the participants are limited. The participants have limited privilege, and only the host or panelist have higher privilege in Zoom webinar. And the maximum number of participants in Zoom webinar that the license from we get from Learn is only 500. Can you hear me? Please tell me that if my internet connection is getting some problem today. I don't know, because of the rain. And when we come to Zoom webinar, the main important thing is you can see different roles in a webinar. The Learn gives webinar license for a person, Zoom user. That person should be the host and has the privilege to schedule and maintain and manage the Zoom webinar. So that all the privileges host is getting after getting the license from Learn, that host has to schedule the Zoom webinar and has to add the panelist, has to generate the registration URL for the attendees, and can add co-host when you start the webinar. And the co-host can be assigned by the host who can manage panelists and the other things when you start the webinar. In Zoom meeting, we can add alternative host, but in a webinar, we cannot add alternative host unless we have someone, some Zoom users who has the webinar license. Otherwise, you cannot add the alternative host. And the third role we can find is the panelist. Panelist means that those who are doing the presentation in a webinar. Panelists are invited when we schedule the Zoom webinar. We have to invite the panelists and register them when we are scheduling the Zoom webinar. But if the host wants, you can promote attendees as panelists. And when we start the webinar, we have the option, we can promote the attendees as panelists. And attendees that are participants, like we can say the audience, and they have only few privilege and not like Zoom meeting, and only few icons are available in their screen when we start the Zoom webinar. And when we are going to schedule a Zoom webinar, like it's very similar to the Zoom meeting scheduling, and you have to think about the date and time, and whether is it a one time or recurring. That means you have webinars with time intervals like that. You are having it today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow, like that. If it's recurring or only one time, and who are the panelists, and the email address and the names that you are going to add as panelists, and whether you are providing, whether you let the student to do the registration manually or automatically, and who are the people that you are going to add as co-host, because you have to add them also as panelists if you want to allow them, or if you want to add them as co-host. Then when you log into Zoom account, and you can see that normally when we click webinars, we also have webinars in our when we log into our Zoom account, but it doesn't have anything. It just display that only some help since we don't have this webinar license. Once your account is given the webinar license, you can see similar window that I'm sharing, and you have option to schedule the webinar. After you receive your Zoom webinar license, log into your Zoom account and click webinars in the left menu, and then click on the schedule a webinar button. When you click on the schedule the webinar button, you'll get very similar, something very similar that when you are using to schedule Zoom meeting. It's very similar form you get, and the first thing that you have to type the topic for your webinar, and it's better that you type some of the descriptions so the attendees and the other people, those who are going to join to this webinar, can see. And you have to type the date and time and the duration and time zone. We don't want to actually worry about the time zone. I think it's in their time zone. Here, since I got the screenshot from one of other website, and it has the Istanbul time zone, but you don't want to worry about. Keep the default and as the time zone. And as I explained earlier, that if your webinar is recurring, that means that you have it repeating with some time interval, you can mention it here. You don't want to create separate webinars for that. You can have the same webinar scheduling, but with the specifying the recurrence details, whether you are going to have it repeatedly with some time intervals. And if it's not a recurring webinar, you just uncheck it and keep the other things as default. Then the next thing, and there is an option registration. You can see the registration option in the when you are scheduling Zoom meeting also, but here registration is, I think it doesn't apply for us because we are only targeting a close group that we know who are going to participate. But if we don't know the group properly and if we are scheduling an open seminar, we can just enable the registration. And when we enable the registration, we can just create a registration form. Later, after completing the scheduling the webinar, you will get a separate place to edit the registration form. So you can have some kind of field to add that registration form. So once you send the registration link, the participants have to fill that registration form. You can ask your own question or you can keep the default questions, and especially that we use this registration option if we are going to organize something for a known group of people. But if the group of people is known, we don't need to use the registration, and we just keep it unchecked so that registration form will not be appear once the student click the registration link.
Ms. Hiroshi, can I interrupt you?
Yeah, sure.
Now, in our case, we have few invitees, and we will also open this for our first year students. For first year students, we would like them to register and attend. But for invitees, can we have these both options together? For some group of people, they'll have to register and attend. Another group of people, we send invitation them to come and join.
Anyway, even though we didn't click the registration required, once we send the registration link, they have to provide their name and the email address. Do you want to get more details?
No. For example, now Professor Ajit Diallis, we'll have to send him only an email so that he can just email with the link. So he just click on the link and join the meeting.
All right, then you don't need to click the registration because generally for a webinar.
Dr. Kalpake, but he's a panelist, no, appointed panelist. This is for participants, right?
Yes, panelist, we have to have the email address and the name separately. It's a separate thing.
So he will be a guest speaker.
Yes, I think Hiroshi, I think host should give access to panelists, right?
Panelists, all the panelists.
Yes, this registration is only for the attendees. Panelist, you have to add the panelists separately. I'll show you.
Hiroshini ටික ඇහුන්නේ නැහැ. ඔයා කියපු ටික ඇහුන්නේ නැහැ.
Okay.
ඔයා කියපු ටික ඇහුන්නේ නැහැ.
Right. I don't know what has happened my internet connection because we are having rain. And if you are going to add the guest speakers, that person has to be added as a panelist. This registration is for the attendees.
Attendees.
Right? Okay. And anyway, for the panelists, we have to add separately. We need their name and the email address. Once we add them as a panelist, there's another mail generated from this system saying that they have been registered as the panelist.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Okay. And you have to set the webinar password, and when the attendees, when you approve the attendees, the system will send the link and the password as a separate mail. And so the other things that the normally that we can set the videos and audios of the host and panelist. You can see that there are no option for the attendees, because actually attendees doesn't have anything. I mean, they cannot do anything. Only that if they want to contact or if they want to communicate with the panelist or the host, they have to use the chat option or Q&A option. Yeah, but if the host can enable the microphone of the attendees. Otherwise, the attendees don't have any privilege to communicate through the microphone or to share the video. So that's why no options to change for anything for attendees. That is the default thing. Is it clear right up to this point? I hope that my voice is clear up to this point, right?
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
And when we continue the form, this next section we have webinar options. Webinar options that there are 4 main options you can find, and I'll explain what are these 4 options in the next slide. And so then at the end you can find the schedule button. So after you specifying the options that you require for your webinar, you can click schedule. I explained that there is a place to write the alternative host. So I did some search whether the alternative host needs to have the webinar license. So as per my understanding, that that person also needs to have a webinar license. But if you want, you can clarify with Learn. I'll ask from someone there that if you want more clarification. But as per my understanding, that alternative host should also have the webinar license if we put the email address of him or her as an alternative host. But I'll do the clarification within next few days, and I'll confirm it to Anushka. Right. So when you complete the form, you can click the schedule button to schedule the meeting, and the options you could see that there are 4 options in the form. Q&A option, that's the main option that we provide the attendees to post their question, and they can use the Q&A to post their question. Then each questions will display under the Q&A section, and either the panelist or host can answer the questions live. Live means using the microphone or using the chat page. I mean, you can use the chat or use the live microphone to answer the question. And the second option is enable the practice session. When we check that option, when the host starts a webinar, webinar will not broadcast at the instance that the host starts the webinar. You will go to a practice session. In the practice session, you can check your audios are correct, videos are correct, whether the webinar is correctly configured. And when the host is satisfied with the options and the environment, can broadcast the webinar, right? And the third option, that enable HD video for screen shared video, we normally don't recommend to check that option because it gets a lot of we need the good connection if we want to share the HD videos, and better to uncheck it and make the webinar on demand. This option also we cannot check because for that we need to have the webinar Zoom Cloud, and since we don't have Zoom Clouds option, please keep that option also unchecked. And the record the webinar automatically. So better to if you can start the recording once the webinar is started, or you can just keep this option checked. Then when it will start automatically, you don't want to worry about. When the webinar is started, broadcasted, it will start to record automatically. But mainly that we need to do it in a local computer, not the cloud, because we don't have that cloud facility. Just the webinar will be recorded in your local computer. So these are the webinar options. You have to set up, you have to specify when you are scheduling a webinar in Zoom. So once all these things are correctly specified, you, as I showed you in the previous slide, that you have to click the schedule meeting button to complete the scheduling. When you click the schedule button, you will come to this window, and if you want, you just can see the schedule webinar while clicking the webinars, and clicking on that webinar name, you get the same window, and it's very similar to Zoom meeting. You can see when you schedule a Zoom meeting, you can see the list of Zoom meeting, and when you click on the name of the Zoom meeting, you get this screen in the Zoom meeting also. So those are the options available in your Zoom webinar, and you can see that if you want, you can share it in the Google Calendar or some other calendars if you are familiar with the calendar, so and using it. And you can see the webinar ID and password and the other options you have already configured when you are scheduling the webinar. And when you scroll down, and you can see this area, you can see this area in your form. So this is for the panelists, right? This is for the panelists, and you when you click the invitation, you can see the invite panelist option. You can see the invite panelist option like this. So in the invite panelist option, you have to click this edit. When you click this edit, you get this window to invite the panelist. You can see that we can invite number of panelists, and it's as I can remember, 100 panelists you can invite to your webinar, and you can have up to 100 panelists, and type the name and the email of the panelist, and type the list of the panelists and click save button, and the system will generate an email to the panelist after you click the save button. Let's say that you forgot to add one of the panelists, but you want to add it later. What you have to do, you have to log into Zoom account, click on webinars, then you can see the list of the webinars that you have scheduled. Click on top of the name of the webinar that you want to add panelist, and you get the screen that I showed you. Scroll until you find this area. Then click edit option again, and type the name and the email address, then click save. But make sure that this option is checked. Otherwise, the newly added panelist will not get the email confirmation from the site. So you can add the panelists. I mean, you don't want to add the panelists at the same time that you have scheduled the seminar. You just can do it even later, but you have to check the option send invitation to all newly added panelists immediately. And this is the
Miss
way.
Hiroshini,
Yes.
yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, now in our this symposium,
Mm.
we have students as invitees.
Yes.
No, not invitees, they are as participants.
Yes.
And we have people from industry.
Mm.
They can also be participant, but we like if they can ask questions. So should we make them panelists or should we make them participants and allow them to talk?
Yeah, that panelist means those who are doing the presentation.
Presentations.
Yes.
So those people will make them participants, but we like if they are asking questions, like from we have industry people as well as from academia, like from University of Moratuwa. There will be now we have our that industrial consultative committee. So those
Yes.
they will be participating. But like after the student presentations, if they discuss or if they ask questions, that will be like, that will be colorful rather than typing
Yes.
questions. So should we allow them to talk at that time? Is there a possibility
I
like
think
that?
it's better. Normally, those who are doing the presentation in the seminar only add them as panelists. And if you won't allow someone from
Only will be panelists.
yes. So at
Okay,
that
okay.
only at that time, either you allow their microphone or add them as panelists after finishing the conference. You can add anyone from
Okay,
attendees.
okay.
You can promote them as panelists when the host wants.
Okay, thank you.
Understand?
Clear, yes.
Right. Host or co-host can do that. Right. I think it's better after finishing the presentation, make them as panelists. Right. And the next.
Okay, Roshini, clear.
Maheshi, yes, you have a question?
Yes, Hiroshini, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hiroshini, so if something happens to host's connection, like a power failure or internet connection interruption, something like that, then can co-host continue the meeting?
Yes,
Webinar?
yes, he can. He can only things that I'll explain the later. And co-host only cannot end the meeting for all the participants. He cannot do it. But all the other things except that, like
Can you please repeat it, Hiroshini? There were some disturbances.
Right, and co-host can do all the management of panelists, attendees, and some other things like host. Only, I mean, one privilege that co-host will not get to end the meeting for all the participants. Co-host cannot do that. But the rest of the things, I mean, the managing the meeting and managing the conference or managing the seminar, host can be done. So it's better if you want, you can have several panelists as co-host, one or two, right? So then you don't want to worry about the interruption from the host or some other co-host. Is it okay?
Okay, it's clear, Hiroshini. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Then now that I explained about how to add panelists, and then we come to the attendees, and not like Zoom meeting, Zoom webinar. Anyway, that the webinar link will not send to the attendees directly. Only the first that registration link has to share with the attendees. And when the registration link is shared, what attendees have to do, click on the registration link and provide the name and the email address. Right? So we can copy the invitation here, or host can ask to email the invitation when this. There are two options here. You can see when a host click this one, the system will email the invitation to the host. Host can forward the invitation to the student, or you can copy the invitation and maybe share with the student by email, or even you can display it in the website, whatever, because we don't want to worry since we have the control to approve the attendees. Once someone click and do the registration, we'll get the list of the registrants. Then we have the privilege to approve the attendees if we set it as manual. But if we set it as automatically, then those who submit the registration get the webinar link to their email. But if you want to control it, you just can set the approval should be manual. Then you can get the list of the registrants. Then you can just click it and approve it by clicking approve button manually. Host has to do it. So that you can get the registration link and either email or either publish it somewhere that the attendees can see and can get the registration link. Then let's assume that students or someone got here, this is the link, and you can see this is the next step in the form. You can see that approval method here, it's mentioned as manually approve. If you want, you can change this option. Once you click this edit and this edit, you get this form. You can set that, you can set the option that can see either automatically approve or the manually approve. And you can change the options here, that when you are setting up, you can just refer some other options also, like it's the link will invalidate after finishing the webinar, something like that. And if it's set to manual, you have to approve the attendees. Otherwise, they will not get the link, webinar link. How to approve the attendees here? You can have to use the manage attendees, and in this edit link, then you get this form, can see the list of attendees with their email address and their registration date. And like you can check the list of the attendees and click approve button to approve them. Those who want to approve, you can check that the attendees and click approve. Then you can see how many registrants and how many are approved here. Is it clear, or any questions? No questions? Right. And so that is how you can manage the attendees. First things that you get the share the registration link. When the registration link is shared and they have to fill their name and email address, then the registration details will come to your account, and you just see the list of the registrants and you can check it and manually approve. But if you set up automatically approve, once they click the registration and provide the details, Zoom webinar link will automatically send to the email that they have provided. Right. Now we have completed scheduling the webinar and inviting the panelists and generating the registration link and getting the registrants and approving
Hiroshini.
them. Once the approve is clicked, they will receive the webinar link to their email. Let's assume now we have come to the date that we are going to host the webinar. So at the time, you...
Hiroshini,
Yes.
hello.
Yes.
Dr. Hiroshini, Miss Hiroshini.
Yes. Can't you hear me?
She can't hear us, I think.
No, I can hear you. Hello. Can't you hear me?
Yeah, Miss Hiroshini now.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So, hello.
Yes.
I can hear you now, but I missed part of your presentation. My signal strength is also weak today. So, what I want to know from you is that do the host accept attendees one by one, or can he or she can do a group acceptance?
You can check. There's a checkbox in front of each
How do you approve
name. You
Hello,
have to
can you hear me?
tick and click
The others.
approve once. Hello.
One by one. Hello, is that one by one?
Yes, it's. Shall I
Dr.
show you
Kalpake,
again?
I think what she said is there's a tick box.
Yeah, tick box for the whole entire group or one by one? You have to check
It
one
says
by
only
one.
one. No, not
approve.
one by one. You tick it. You have to tick it one by one. There's a list here. Can you see?
Okay.
They have to tick it one by one, but once you tick and click approve. Dr. Kalpake, is it clear?
Yeah, right.
Miss Hiroshini,
Yes.
this host should be someone having these host powers can be, I mean, given to only to a learner account holder.
Yes. Only who has PDN email.
I think she can't hear us.
I think there's a delay.
Hello, can't you hear me?
So I
මොකද මහල් ලොකු වැඩක් වගේ එකයි මම බැලුවේ.
ඒක තමයි මමත් බැලුවේ එක දැන්
You who has the PDN,
now we
learn
can
Zoom
time
account.
the line get
We thought of getting it for Dr. Mahesh's account.
Dr.
And
Mahesh.
if the co-host, now all these set up Dr. Mahesh's account.
Yes, then she has to do.
Dr. Mahesh, you have a lot of work.
Yes. I think.
No,
I think creating the webinar. I think creating the webinar is not that difficult.
No, it's
but
only
maintaining it,
Yeah.
maintaining it without any interruption, it's challenging, I think.
No,
We want your
webinar.
support that day, Roshini. We want your support on that day.
Definitely, I will. Yeah, don't worry.
Because we are so worried that we will go wrong.
No, it's very easy thing, right? You don't want to worry. The first, I also haven't set up any webinar, but I have participated several because they had some webinars and like inauguration in the management MSc they had the webinar inauguration, and there are some other webinar series. It's easy. Once you get it, it's not that much difficult.
Dr. Anushka, when will I get access to webinar?
They said on 5th.
5th. That means this Saturday, right? No,
Yeah.
Friday.
Ms. Roshini, I have a question.
Yes.
Ms. Roshini.
Yes, I can hear you.
Now we are hoping to have the actual event on 12th, but we are hoping to have like rehearsals so that we can check how to coordinate and how to allocate attendees and things like that. So if we schedule a webinar for 12th, is it possible for the host to open it at another time for us to do a rehearsal?
No. The best thing, you have a test webinar.
Test webinar.
Okay, so the test webinar could be on a complete another day.
Yes, complete another day and a separate thing. I mean, you can select some of your staff members as attendees, some of your staff members as panelists. You can have a test webinar before that day.
Hiroshini, is it only one practice session is allowed?
Test session.
It's not the practice session. It's like a small time period. It allowed to check the environment. It's not a practice session. You can't. I mean, none of the attendees or the panelists can join with you.
Yes. I mean,
the practice session.
yes, I mean, we are provided with only one testing session.
No, Dr. Maheshi,
Yes.
I think you will be allowed to use webinar for a certain period of time. During this time, for example, for 5 days or 6 days, during this time, you can have any number of webinars.
Yes,
Am I
there's no limitation. You can have another test webinar. You schedule another webinar for a test purpose. You didn't get my point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's clear.
Yeah, because like why they are providing a time period, because you have to publish the registration link, and you have to give time period for the attendees to register. And at the same time, you can create another webinar, a test webinar, and you can schedule a test webinar and check it and have the webinar among yourselves to get familiar with the webinar features and tools.
Okay, Ms. Roshini, the other question is it possible for us to schedule multiple webinars with the licenses?
Yes. Until you are having the webinar license, you can schedule any number of webinars.
Okay, Ms. Roshini. Thank you.
Right. Right, and to start the webinar, you have to log into your Zoom account, and you go to webinars, and then you can see the list of the webinars that you have created, and select get the correct webinar and click the start button. Then you can launch the webinar as very similar that you are launching the Zoom meeting. And when you launch the webinar, if you enable the practice session, then you will get that small orange color bar saying that practice mode only. Attendee cannot join until you broadcast. I told you that is only for the host. Host has to check and all the other stuff, and if the host is happy with the environment, then can click the broadcast. when you click the broadcast, the webinar will open officially and the attendees can join only after clicking the broadcast. I got it from this screen from a video that I got referred, and you can see this is the appearance of a host in a webinar in the practice session. You can see that this orange color bar saying that practice session only, attendees cannot join until you broadcast, and can see the tools and icons here for the host view. Here, you can see it's similar to the Zoom meeting, but there are some icons are missing, like cannot see the breakout rooms, something like that. Only these things that you can see in a webinar for a host. And when you broadcast, here it's the screen of a webinar once it is broadcast. You can see the webinar is recording and participants question Q&A and to share the share option to share the screen and chat and microphone video, because the host can do all the sharing of screen and videos and audios. Then you can see that participants here. If you want to can see the participants, you had a click that you had a question that when you want how to promote attendees as panelists, when you click the participants, in the Zoom meeting you get only the participants list, but in webinar you get two tabs. There are two tabs in webinar in the participant list. First tab is panelist, and the other tab is attendees. And in the panelist tab, you get the list of panelists that you have invited after you scheduling the meeting. And when you see one of the panelists, and when you click the Move button, can see the options, right? And or if you want, you can set the other option also, change role to attendee, and the other things. If you want, you can remove. So these are the panelist lists that you can see that if the main thing that the host has to do once the meeting is started and when the panelists are joined, make some of the panelists as co-host. And if you want, you can just, if you want to leave, you can just, I don't know, I'm not sure whether you can make the others hosts since they don't have the license, but technically it should be okay. But you can have any number of co-hosts once the meeting is started, and co-hosts get the same privileges like managing the attendees, managing the panelists, and doing the other stuff, recording and all the other features. Co-hosts also get the same privilege.
Excuse me, Roshini, the co-host also should have a Learn account.
No, and I don't think so, right? Technically, I think because once it is started, it is not connected. I mean, you can add the co-host, but I'll check it with them, right? I'll ask from Lalanta.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Up to this point, I think my voice is clear, right? You understand how you get the participant list, and there are two tabs. One tab is panelists and the other tab is attendees. In this picture, you can see the panelist tab. You get this by clicking the participants in your webinar screen.
Ms. Hiroshini, if
Yes.
someone's microphone is switched on, can the host mute him?
Yes,
he,
yes.
But here we can't see that option. In the screen,
It's unmute.
Right.
Unmute.
Since it's
Okay.
mute, it says unmute, right? If it is
Right.
not, it will show mute if it is switch on. That button is for that one. Is it clear?
And yeah, one more thing. Do you have any way to control the time now? For example, if someone is speaking and if only 10 minutes are allowed and if the person is keep talking, so is there any way to pass him a message?
Yes.
Hiding that message to others only for that person?
No, you can use the chat one.
Personalized.
One, you can select the
okay.
not to everyone, but you can select that person and send the chat message.
Right. Similar to our Zoom meetings.
Yes, it's similar to Zoom meeting.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Ms. Roshini, is it possible to create breakout rooms in webinar?
No, webinar you cannot do. So no option to create breakout rooms.
So it should be only one continuous session.
Yes, only one.
Thank you.
No breakout room, no whiteboards. No, you don't have that option in webinar. Only Zoom meetings.
So we had a plan, Hiroshini, we had a plan like we have a lot of posters. So we thought we'll they are under 4 themes. So we thought of selecting groups like panelists into different themes and allow participant to go to the room that want. So you want to be able to do that, right?
No, in the webinar you cannot do it.
Do it. Okay.
No breakout rooms. No, that option is not available. You have to find any other way. Like you put your posters in some like maybe some web pages, and then you share it with the attendees. Something like that. Right.
Okay.
And now earlier that we saw the list of the panelists. Now this picture shows the attendees, the other tab. If you click the other tab, attendees tab, you get the list of the attendees. You can see that there are 2 tabs. Earlier that we selected panelists tab, now we've selected attendees tab. And you can see the attendees here. That you can see that only the host or co-host can allow. While they are being as attendees, if you want, you can allow them to talk, one of the attendees to talk.
Ms. Hiroshini?
Yes.
Do the attendees have that raise hand option?
Yes. I'll show the attendee window later, how attendees see the webinar. And so that if you see, I mean, if you want to promote one attendees as panelists, you just can by clicking the more option, and by clicking the more option, you can say promote that attendees as panelists, right? And vice versa, if you want to move panelists, someone from panelists to attendees, you can do the same thing, as well as you can promote attendees to panelists, right? And by being as attendees, if you want, you can allow, when you click allow to talk, that microphone will be enabled to that particular attendee only, right? Is it clear? So that is how you can manage the participants as panelists and as attendees in a webinar. Now we come to the webinar attendee view. So you can see earlier that we discussed the view of the host or co-host or panelist. Now we come to the webinar attendee view. And actually panelist also has the option to sharing video, allowing sharing some files, sharing screen, have the video, but panelists cannot manage the participants. Panelists doesn't have that privilege. Only host or co-host has the privilege to manage the participants. And this is the view of attendee. Get when in a webinar, you can see that this is actually in a red one, and attendee cannot unmute it. But if a host provide allow talk to attendee, then attendee get it in a normal color with the privilege either to mute or unmute. But normally it is in a red color. We don't, attendee cannot do anything in the microphone, but once the host is allowed talk and get the normal color either to mute or unmute. And here, this is the chat raise hand option. Can raise the hand. And the raise hand, that panelist can see if someone raising the hand, message will display in the screen saying that attendee has raised hand, so that either host or panelist can allow the person to talk, or use the chat pane, or use the question and Q&A section and see whether there are some questions are posted, and then you can answer the question. Right? Any questions regarding on the attendee view?
What is the difference between chat and Q&A?
Chat, like we normally use the chat for friendly talking, like not some specific questions, like commenting, something like that. But Q&A is more formal thing. Right? You have a record whether you have answered the question. Like that, the panelists can just ignore normally panelists can ignore the chat session. It's like some informal discussions, but I'll show you the Q&A. It's like formal discussion. Let's say that you ask a question from the panelists, but you can use the chat maybe to send message, to post, or to comment, or let's say that you can't hear. Wow, you can't hear the sound, that you can't see the screen. That message you share using the chat. You should not use the Q&A to post that message. But if you want to ask some technical questions about the presentation, that's something that you can't understand, and something you want to raise some comment, for that you have to use the Q&A, because Q&A is official. Like you have to answer it, but the chat is more informal and unofficial. But anyway, that both things are used. Yes, Maheshi?
Yeah, I'm Sanita. So the chat, where does the chat go? Is it to the panelist or to the host?
Sorry, I didn't hear your question properly.
Yeah, so the chat, when an attendee types on the chat, it goes to does it go to the host or to the panelist?
Chat normally, when you are chatting, you can select the destination. Either it's for everyone or only for the host, or for maybe if you want, you can you chat secretly with any other attendee also.
Okay, so the Q&A will go to the?
Yes.
host and the panelists.
Panelists, yes. Right, the Q&A section, it's something similar to this, right? And like I told you that it's either you type the answer by clicking here, or you can answer live. And you have a record whether you have answered all the questions or what are the unanswered questions. So that's why I told you it's some kind of official thing, but not like chat. And for a seminar, it's something like official. Host or the panelists can answer, right? And mostly that I have covered all the features in a webinar, and the other things that you can actually generate reports, and after completing the webinar, if you want to find out who are the participants and time spent and some other details. And actually this is not only for webinar. If you want, you can use the same feature for your Zoom meetings also. And if you want to get the reports, you have to log into your, but remember you have to generate the report at least after 15 minutes when you finish the webinar or when you finish the Zoom meeting. And after finishing the Zoom meeting, you have to log into your Zoom account and select reports. You can see it's in your left menu. It's the last option you have. Okay, when you click the report, you see the usage meeting webinar. If you want to get the details of the Zoom meeting, you have to click the meeting. If you want to get the details of the webinar, you have to click the webinar. And in the reports, there are a lot of reports available in Zoom. You can get the registration report, attendee reports, performance, Q&A report, and if you create a poll, I don't know whether you have used that feature in Zoom meetings. If you want, you can create polls in like you ask some questions, and in the between you are having your presentation, you can just post it to the audience, and audience can answer the poll. Then all the details available under the report section. You select which report that you want to generate. Then you choose the webinar that you want to generate the report. Then you get the option to generate the CSV report. You know what is CSV? It will be downloaded to your computer. So you get the report. You can open it through the Excel with all the information based on the report type that you have selected. So it's very important if you want to keep a track of your webinar or Zoom meeting, or if you want to create a report, you can add the report generated from the Zoom as evidence that about your webinar or about the Zoom meeting, about the people who participated, about the time spent, and all the other things. You can use this Zoom report as evidence. And so those are the things that I had to discuss about Zoom webinar, and so we'll have some kind of discussion if you have any questions to clarify.
Ms. Hiroshina, this is about the Zoom webinar facility that is given from Learn. So, the plan was to make Dr. Maheshi the host, and when we requested that, we got to know that the facility will be available from 5th December. So that mean that Dr. Maheshi will be able to schedule any number of webinars from 5th December, or would that mean that Dr. Maheshi will get a Zoom webinar host for one? I mean, whether she'll be able to host one webinar that is planned and given to us by Learn.
No, no, no. Learn will not schedule any, meeting. Learn will enable the webinar license for you. Once the webinar license is enabled, when Dr. Maheshi log into her Zoom account, she will be able to see the webinar in the left menu. So that means you can schedule any number of meetings within that period of time.
Okay, Ms. Hiroshi. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Hiroshini. So our plan is now we are very worried about this bandwidth issue. So
Yes.
our plan is now most of the staff members will come to the department and we'll join from this network, and I'll
Yes.
inform Dean and Learn also that we need power cuts and continuous, like it
Yes.
should go smoothly, and then can one of you or one of your instructor or someone be with us on that day?
When
Like
is
only
it?
for 3 hours, 12th December.
Okay, and I have to come because I don't think that one of my instructors compete with the Zoom and very difficult for
Yes,
me to.
I highly appreciate if you can. It'll be only 3 hours from 9 to 12.
Okay, no problem. I'll visit.
Thank you very much, Hiroshini. Any other questions from? And we'll be bothering you throughout, right? From 5th while setting up, you
No,
will get so many
actually,
calls from us.
it's not a problem. Luckily, I didn't have much knowledge about Zoom webinar. And
Yes.
Learn organized a workshop last 3 days, last week, 3 days workshop. And Dr. Asita asked me to participate for that.
Okay.
You are lucky. Otherwise, I don't have that much. I didn't have that much knowledge on webinar. But
Okay.
after the workshop, and they have explained a lot of things, and I could learn a lot of things about Zoom meetings, webinars, and some technical stuff as well. That's why I'm very confident.
After we get this so license also, we'll can we have another meeting like this?
No problem, right? Once you receive the license, that you set up a date, and we'll have it.
Tanushka, then we can have a test session.
Yes.
So we can appoint her as a panelist.
Yes.
And Dr. Maheshi can conduct a session.
And the other thing that you have to schedule the real webinar, because you have to share the registration link with the student,
yes,
allowing them the time to register. Right?
Yes, yes.
Because
And this registration form, we have to create it separately.
No, that registration link, once you schedule the seminar, the registration link is appeared. You have to share that registration link with the students, those who are going to attend.
Okay, what we need in that, we can, we can insert in that itself. Like we need the name, email, and working place and all that.
Yeah, if you want, you have to enable the registration option if you want to have more information.
Okay, right.
We'll have something test session once you receive the license. First or second day. So then we'll schedule test one, and we'll register as attendee, and so I think that's easy for everyone to get familiar with it. And for me also, because I haven't used anything in webinar by practice. This is the thing only I learn from others and from videos.
Okay. So thank you very much, Ms. Hiroshini, for preparing and doing this for us today. And we expect your support throughout until we finish this on 12th. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Then we'll be in touch. Yes.
Dr. Anushka,
Yes.
just check with students whether they have any issues.
Students, yeah. Do you have anything to ask? Shashika? Rashmi?
Yes, madam. Everything is clear now.
Okay.
Rashmi, you will be the most probably. Now, Dr. Maheshi, have you chosen somebody to compare?
No, not. I don't know about that, Dr. Kalpage. So Charita will provide with information.
Yes,
And one more thing, if you want to share the registration link, you can use Fields.
Yes. Yeah.
It's very easy and very convenient.
Okay.
If no questions, thank you very much,
we'll
Ms. Hiroshini.
Okay.
Thank you,
very much for your
Thank you
time.
very
Okay,
much. Thank you for your time.
If there are no questions, I'll stop recording and I'll